Oh, what is up, ladies and germs? Mike Lang here again with the Homie Webs, as always, and we've got a 5-part series for you, starting tonight, every night this week at 6 o'clock, and it's almost that time to go back to school again, Webs, which is interesting to me. It seems like it happens faster and faster every year.
Compression of time and
Yeah, it's I don't know.
what
It's
is what do you call it? Einstein discovered
the relativity.
relativity.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean it's wild. So I saw my first back to school commercial today, which was
Oh.
like terrifying. It's July, bro. So that was interesting. Um, but it got me thinking. Our local school district, Clark County School District in Las Vegas, is going to allow, after it was like 5 years of no Google Classroom. Google Classroom can be a thing again, and that brings like some opportunities and also brings some potential disastrous effects in the classroom. And tonight's episode, this whole series is going to be really about, you don't really need Google Classroom as a pedagogical proxy. Google Classroom is a container. It holds things, just like Canvas holds things. Now, what you don't want to do, in Webs, you are a chef. You cook things all the time. You make recipes of stuff. You know, do you consider the Tupperware you're going to use to house your leftovers before you cook a meal?
Do I consider the
Yeah.
Tupperware?
Like,
Oh, yes-ish. I mean, or as some dude on the internet says, Tupperware. Yes-ish. So sometimes I'll think about like uh what container I want to put it in at the end. Sometimes I wing it. Doesn't always work out the greatest when I wing it. But anymore, what we've done is we kind of have a system, not surprisingly, where we pretty much only have deli containers, and everything goes into a deli container. There are a couple of exceptions that will go into glass containers, but it's very rare. Almost everything goes into a deli container. And we have 3 sizes of the deli containers.
So you have a system, right? You don't go into the situation that is culinary and wing it to such an extent that you don't have preparation for what you're going to cook, the how you're going to store what you're going to cook, how long it's going to last in your refrigerator.
Well, to be clear though, there was the time when I had a mishmash of all kinds of random containers. And maybe not on the culinary side of it, but like on the managing it and packaging it side of it, it's much easier to have a system of deli containers, Posca markers, and painter's tape. Like that system is unparalleled because it reduces the cognitive load of deciding what to put it in, of do I have a label, is it going to stick, do I have the right marker, do I have something to write on with it, like having like Posca markers that show up on the blue painter's tape and the deli containers, because you know that the painter's tape will always stick to the deli containers, and the Posca marker colors I picked will always show on that blue painter's tape, so it makes everything so much easier. I don't have to worry about that. I can focus on making something I really want to make because I already have the containers all set up.
Interesting. And would that also make it very easy for a guest to be able to find the leftovers that they would like, or the ingredients in your refrigerator?
Yeah, because everything's labeled with the tape and the marker, and you have the date on it, so you know when you need to throw it away.
Absolutely. Very interesting. So instead of focusing on tools, you have a system that the tools fit in, which allows you to be successful and lowers your metacognitive load. Sounds like the way we need to use Google Classroom to me. So if we think of Google Classroom as your deli containers, and not the place you're going to make food, because you're going to make food outside of the deli containers. You're going to store the food in the deli containers, right? So
And give them labels.
That is the important thing. What often happens with teachers is we become distracted by the tool or the container in this particular sense, and we want to build inside of the container rather than building outside the container and bringing what we have cooked into the container to be organized and labeled, so it's easier for our learners to navigate. And then we get frustrated. Lots of teachers that, both of us are digital learning coaches. When products, services, software, hardware don't work, we discard it. It doesn't work. Oh my goodness, I didn't want to do this anyway. And we go back to the old way that we were doing things, and not realizing, Webbs, I think the system and putting a system in place is the most important indicator of whether or not we're going to be successful or not as we go, not just currently, but as we go forward to the next school year. You have an opportunity to build that system before you get into, oh my goodness, my hair is on fire in August. So that's pretty much what our series is going to be about this week. How can you prepare yourself to be able to take what you've already cooked, what you've already built, and put it in the proper containers and organize those things with the pasta markers and the painter's tape in a way that's going to be able to be organized for your learners and also keep you sane. So, Webbs, have you ever had a brand new student in your classroom? Like, start the school year and then, like, October, John shows up or Julie shows up?
Absolutely, so many times.
How does that make you feel as a teacher? Like, what goes through your mind?
Anxious because how am I going to catch them up? I have to assess what they know. It requires a lot of intense focus on one kid for a little while so that you can get them to where they need to be, and sometimes both. You are pairing them with a student who's capable, and then that always makes me feel like, oh, that's not really that student's job. Yeah. And so do they even really want that job? Some kids are really keen on taking on that job, but really every kid's focus should be their own learning. They shouldn't be responsible for the learning of other kids. I think there's a time and a place for it, and it's a nuanced conversation, but just by default, having some kid be sort of your TA or secondary teacher, I don't think that's a good frequent strategy to reach for, because then it can become detrimental to the education of the student who is always being sort of the second teacher.
Absolutely. And so we have an opportunity, given the technological capabilities that are in most classrooms, especially classrooms we were talking about, urban classrooms, right? Places that are going to have the internet pretty reliably, hopefully. They're going to have electricity infrastructure. They're going to have computers. They're going to have, some space. Those places are going to generally be places that, if you're talking about Google Classroom, you're going to have the other things that support Google Classroom being that thing in your learning environment. So we're speaking very, very precisely about Google Classroom. However, lots of what we're going to say during this week could be applied to whatever learning management system that you're utilizing, because it's just going to be, in my opinion, good 22nd century pedagogy. And I skew toward the 22nd century at this particular point. It's almost 2030. A 5-year-old now could have the reasonable expectation to see the next century. And so if we start thinking about how are you going to prepare that person, that kindergarten happens to be in your classroom this year, for life in 2100, which sounds insane, but what does that look like? How's that person going to be able to have the media literacy? If you're not paying attention to what currently is happening in our country, media literacy is huge. The AI thing is going to really put people on their, have to challenge people's assumptions about what is true and what is not, and really force us to go in and dig in there. But we're going to deal with the brain today. And when we talk about the brain, we're talking about a system of operation for your classroom that exists way before you get to your Google Classroom situation, that if John were to show up on August the 3rd or October the 17th, That system is going to be consistent, that y'all can plug into that system and understand how everything flows. And we've done this already in person. If you're someone who's local, next week at Von Tobel Middle School, we'll be doing this live and hands-on and walking teachers through every little piece and parcel of this experience. You'll get a 1 hour like little bump for the next 5 days, but if you really want to get your fingers dirty and we really want to see the possibility with this particular the way of thought, next week Von Tobel was at 9:30 to 12:30. I will throw a shout out over the link at the end and kind of show you where that information is if you want to go and register for it. But when we talk about operating systems, Webs, from a technologist point of view, what does that mean?
Well, an operating system is the underlying system that runs all of the applications on your device. So that might be iOS if you have an iPhone. That might be Windows if you're running a Windows machine. It might be Mac OS if you're running a MacBook or an iMac or something. But basically, it's what makes everything possible to like sit on top of it. So it's what starts the computer, what connects to the peripherals like your mouse and your keyboard and your audio and all those foundational pieces so that you can do things like run Chrome or run your video games or whatever.
Absolutely. So it's the word I like that you use is foundational, right? It's the thing that the rest of the house sits upon. And if you don't have the foundation, you are going to be chasing yourself for the rest of the school year. And right now, I think it's the sweet spot. If you're a local teacher in Las Vegas, I believe school, you report on August the 5th. You got like 2 weeks to really like take the last decompression, that last, a jaunt to Venice Beach or San Diego or wherever you go to kind of, zone out and zen out a little bit and really take some time to organize your thoughts going forward so that you don't end up stressed in September and October. And Webbs, have you ever been stress teaching?
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of a silly question. 99 million% of teachers have been stress teaching, right? But one of the things toward the end of my career that I started to realize was if you build the foundation as early as possible and you kind of go through kind of the mortiming of that particular process, and you get those kids to get it in August, it makes it a lot easier to rock and roll with the unexpected things like 7 kids being added to your classroom, the pet gerbil going missing, and whatever other things are going to happen. But if you decide you're just going to like freestyle it, and a lot of the younger teachers that I mentor, you come in freestyling, oh, that's too much work. If you do the blue collar work now, you're going to reap the benefits of that blue collar work, because a lot of the things, and we're going to show you starting tonight, you can kind of start to automate. So a lot of talking. Let's actually show folks some things here, Webbs, and we'll kind of go back and forth with an opportunity to converse a little bit. This is Google Drive, and this is, in my opinion, where you should start all of your journeys this school year. If you're a first-year teacher, you might not have anything on your Google Drive because you have not had the opportunity to be the pack rat that most teachers are. Your garage is full of stuff. Your email is full of stuff. You've got stuff from 1973 that you can't part with because that's just how teachers roll, right? But the important thing before you go to Google Classroom and start figuring out, hey, this assignment, whatever, is what do you have? Austin Kleon has a great concept about how artists work and being able to see things in order to touch them, to know that they're real, and then to organize those things. This is why things are all over the place, right? Hey, if I don't see the thing, it doesn't exist. That is the benefit of opening up your Google Drive and saying, oh man, forgot I had that PDF from 1987. Oh, really taking some time and going through, and not just going through and touching things, but to organize them. And so if you'll notice, I have all these things organized into color-coded folders. Now, anyone who knows me knows I am not a super organized person. Not at all. Webbs, would you find that to be true?
No, in fact, especially like when we first met, you were a just dump it all and I'll search for it later. But I think it also speaks to how you've evolved alongside the technology, as because it has proven we've circled back around to needing directories and needing a hierarchy, needing some structure and organization so that an agent can do something with it.
Just insanity, right? Just being able to say, I put this thing here, I know where it is, rather than you wake up Monday morning and you cannot find that one, whatever it was. And then, as one of my mentees did this year multiple times, you try to search the internet for some facsimile of the activity that you were going to do that doesn't fit your classroom, doesn't fit your culture, doesn't fit your teaching style. Perhaps you might even go to the dreaded teacher pay teacher and try to buy something off of somebody's shop that you could have made had you been prepared for school or whatever. So
also, at least if it's in the right bucket, you have an idea of where to look for it. Whereas if you're just relying on your own memory to remember what that document was called, that could get pretty sketchy pretty quickly.
Absolutely. That's another thing. Like, I mean, I'm getting older. I'm forgetting where things are lots of times. And to your point, knowing it's inside my classroom OS somewhere is a great starting point for me to do so. So, classroom operating system. And we're going to talk about source code today because we're going to have enough time. The other pieces those are longer conversations. It's going to take a lot of time to kind of deal with those things. But we're going to do a general overview of all these things. And this is something you can do tonight. You don't have to fill the folders. You just need to have a structure for how you're going to conduct your business during the school year. And so we've got source code. Great. Here's your source code. I got tons of stuff inside there already. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, the thing that I built for myself was a explanation, because I will forget, of what goes in here and what also does not go in here. And so I built this, and Webbs, you mentioned a word, you used the word agent just a few seconds ago. What are you referring when you say agents?
Well, so AI is the big thing right now, right? Like, even outside of education, there's the idea that you can build out semi-autonomous, we call them agents, like little computer robots that will go do things for you. But in order for them to do their job well, you have to give them some context to work with. You have to tell them what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. It could be like Claude Code, Gemini, ChatGPT, because you can have those not only the one-off chat that you talk to them in, but you can set them up and structure files so that you create almost like an identity for it. So, like, for example, I built an agent that is my personal trainer. I called it Colossus after Colossus from the X-Men. And it knows things about, like, hey, this is what my goal is. I'm working on getting back to strength training. But it's important to me that the most important thing is that I do the thing, not that I do it perfectly. So it really keeps track of and emphasizes that when I'm asking for, hey, create me a routine. I have 10 minutes or whatever. But it has some rules about what to do and what not to do. Like, for example, the important thing is that I do something, not that I do it perfectly. So it's not going to give me a 45-minute routine that covers full body and, uses a full kettlebell or a barbell workout. Like, it's going to think about what the constraints that I've given it versus just spitting out the only routine or the more common routine you'd see, I guess, if I were working with a trainer.
Huh. That's cool. And so, thinking about that, that's one of the reasons why I organized my folders the way that I did, is that if I needed a Gem, Claude, whatever, to search the thing or to help me decide where a specific document or concept should go, that it knows the ground rules and I'm not constantly having to explain those things to it. So, One, take some time, sit with the Google Drive. You can do this if you have a laptop while you're Netflixing and chill. Hey, I got my document over. Where should I put these documents? But before you do that, give it, and this is just a basic, my basic scaffold is here. Source code, architecture. So my source code is really who am I, the DNA of who I am and how I do my work. Architecture has my classroom built. PLC stuff, like all my data for the young people are going to go in there. Assessment concepts, ideas, dates, perhaps, that kind of information. How could I help another teacher, which I think is another, one of the things that was very beneficial to me this school year was being a guest teacher in so many classrooms and having the opportunity to have relationships with teachers I would have never run into had I stayed in my classroom and would close my door, right? And the concept of PLC kind of evolved in terms of oftentimes it is going to PLC. Actually, before I go into my wax philosophy, what was your experience in PLC as a teacher? Like when someone said PLC, what did you like? What does that bring to mind? Rather,
it's kind of two things. And one is there's the spirit of PLC, professional learning community, right? Like you get together and you talk about the things that help you all grow as professionals. I remember when I was doing my student teaching, I thought very naively that when you go into the teacher's lounge, we'd all be talking about like teaching philosophies and what strategies are we using. That was false. We talked about Desperate Housewives. So there's like the spirit of what I imagined PLC to be. What it actually was we all disgruntledly got together at some point during the day, usually before school started. We complained about all the things that we had to do. Maybe we went over some test scores. Maybe we kind of talked about what each person was teaching and ran out of time before we had any sort of meaningful conversation, and then went out to morning duty. That's more what it actually played out as.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I actually was on some really good teams. And we really, especially toward my specialist teams, we didn't do PLC in like the classic sense just because our subject matter was different. We got along in terms of when we had the PLC, we were able to do things. But the best PLC I had was a PLC of two. It was me and another fifth grade teacher. And we got the other thing, and you're a learning sciences person. We're kind of going to go a little bit left here. The other thing that's very interesting about the concept of collaboration in PLC is it does not take into account people's personalities, the way that people might converse or present themselves. Like it really assumes that you will just put these people in a room in a grade level, whatever, and things will just work. It's very interesting that as adults, the expectation is just, I can put you with anybody. Doesn't matter what the personality types are. It doesn't matter if one person is prickly and another person's super sensitive or whatever. Just like make it work. And you wouldn't really do that with kids in a classroom, right? Like you would be a little bit more, or I've always tried to be a little bit more liberal with this is not working out at this group for, Jimmy. We may want to move Jimmy someplace else so Jimmy has a little wider berth because this group might be a better fit for Jimmy. I think lots of the PLCs devolve into chaos because one, there is not a system for PLC. It's just like PLC, work together, talk about data, right? And also there's not a system for a pre-existing system that every teacher brings to the PLC that says, I can easily find all the things that I'm asked to find. And as we're about to go into, not being aware that there's technology that's available that allows you to navigate your data and your students in a far easier way than let's spend 45 minutes that I don't want to spend in this room and therefore it becomes Desperate Housewives. I can't even remember the characters of Desperate Housewives anymore. That was the show everybody was so much. I never watched Desperate Housewives, but I knew the characters' names just because it was such a popular show. Super interesting. But PLC, if you build a PLC folder, you can do some very interesting things with Notebook LM and with Google Gems with your PLC information as well. Scheduler, Webs is you're the queen of calendaring and things like that. Why would it behoove us in July to make sure that we have access to both the student and the teacher calendar for our school district?
I mean, then you can just put everything on your Google Calendar and it's there. You can set reminders for it. It'll follow your default reminders so that if you want the reminder like a day before or an hour before or whatever, all of that can be set up. I live by my calendar. It's the thing that tells me where I need to be, when I need to be there, what's due, all those kinds of things. So yeah, calendar is like maybe, I mean, I think also it helps give you sort of that architectural bird's eye view of where you're at in the school year, which is nice because you can then just use Google Calendar. You don't have to like recreate it somewhere else or go find that PDF or go look up, when is our next professional development day. It's all already on your calendar once you connect it between your scheduler folder and Gemini.
And if you're talking about our local school district, another thing, or if you're in a larger school district, they tend to have pacing guides already for you, right? So also being able to download those and add them to a scheduling folder. I've got the official district calendar. I've got the students, when the students are going to be in school. I've got all the pacing guides. I really have this very nice tool to know when kids are going to be out of school. The other thing that I think is interesting that lots of teachers don't think about is sharing a calendar layer with your students. Here's what we're doing. One of the things that really kind of is interesting to me as going into so many classrooms is you'll have the schedule on the board. And I'm like, that's cool, but what if I'm not in the classroom, fam? Or you'll ask a kid like, yo, she said you guys have PE today. Is that true? I don't know. If everything was on the calendar, I could just pull my Chromebook up and see. I don't have to wait until Ms. Jones tells me that, A day is going to be Tuesday. I can see it on my calendar. A day is Tuesday, which is also going to, lots of people are anxious about what their schedule is. That is a burden that lots of people come into school like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do at what time. Being able to have that peace of mind, I think, is also something important going forward.
Also, flexibility. So if your days change, you can update your calendar and everybody automatically gets it. It's building a life skill for them because that's exactly how my day-to-day runs is I run it off of my calendar. If someone needs to schedule a meeting with me, they look at my calendar, put something on my calendar. If they need to update it, then they change it. So it's also building a life skill that they need to be able to work with the calendar and understand what happens when things change. If you add to the notes on the event things like what materials they need, like that can also be a backup situation if for whatever reason they can't get to Google Classroom or there's something that you want the parents to see, you could put an event on the calendar.
Absolutely. These standards. You would be amazed how many teachers I talk to this school year do not have the standards inside their Google Drive.
That was like teaching 101 when I was an undergrad. So here are the standards. You will learn how to teach from the standards. No teacher's manual. We did not get a teacher's manual.
Absolutely.
It was just, you have a standard and a piece of paper. Good luck.
Yep. And that thing was like 85 pounds. And it was not fun trying to navigate that little huge notebook. But have the standards. And what the thing that I generally invite teachers to do is have the standards for your grade level, a grade level below, and a grade level above. Then you're seeing this real continuity in terms of what that particular standard you're looking at looks at in third grade, in fifth grade if you're a fourth grade teacher. All right. Also,
I think one of the things that made me a really good third grade teacher was I think it was my second or third year. It was my third year of teaching. I got forced down to second grade. And I ended up having to move up to third grade after count day but it was one of the best lessons because it really gave me empathy for where second grade was starting from, and what I needed to do to get my incoming third graders ready to be able to be successful in third grade and then move on to fourth grade.
Mm-hmm. After the standards, your curriculum. Now, if you do have a curriculum, excuse me, or things that you've taught, you've built, put those in that folder. Hey, this is, I'm using HMH, I'm using Amplify, whatever. You've got those PowerPoints downloaded, the notes that you took or whatever. Put them all in that folder. Everything goes there. The exemplars folder is one that people would overlook, but to me is one of the most important, especially if you're going to be utilizing like your Google Gemini or your Gems or any other LLM. Exemplars for, hey, a kid who gets this particular standard, this is the example of their work. A kid who has no idea what this standard looks like, this is an example of their work. You want some anonymity, like cross the kid's name out of it or whatever. But those are kind of things that are going to help you utilize some of the technology you have at your disposal in order to make the best assignments and activities possible, and also to think about where could a student get caught or misled in that particular situation, because you're giving it lots of data in terms of the best students do this, the students who have struggled do this particular thing. How can I design with both of those things in mind? Or anything.
But that's not a new concept, right? Like we've had that for ages, where you keep old student exemplars to be able to share with future classes.
So 8, you can't see it really on the screen, is learner data. So any of the information, you can anonymize that data. One of the things, there was a teacher who had a concern. She was like, well, I don't want to utilize my kids' data when I'm using, Gemini as a stat. I was like, yeah, I definitely get you, right? It's a concern. I try to anonymize my data as much as possible. However, you put this kid's work in Google Drive. Google Drive belongs to Google, just like Gemini belongs to Google, just like if it's that sensitive, do not put anything that has a kid's name on it inside your Google Drive. But that would kind of defeat the Google Classroom purpose, because when you put things on Google Classroom, you are associating data with a student's name, and that is going somewhere. So, Webbs, what is your opinion about that particular concept?
Yeah, so then you keep in mind is that there are, now granted, I think a huge caveat to all of this is obviously this is a trust system, right? Like no one from your school district is walking into Google's headquarters and saying, show me the drive or anything crazy like that. However, that said, there are both laws like COPPA and FERPA around how tech companies manage student data specifically that they have to adhere to, or they are supposed to adhere to. And to your point, if you're going to put it in Drive, then there really isn't fundamentally a difference between Drive and Gemini. Like those are the same company, the same heading, as long as it is the Gemini instance that is under your school Google, it's no longer called Google Apps for Education, but your Google Education like institution, your organization. You can't take that data, and if you're taking that data and putting it into your own personal instance of Gemini, that's a different story. You definitely don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you're keeping all of the things related to your students within the school umbrella account for Gemini, and you should be receiving guidance from your administrator around this is what is permissible, what's covered under our agreement with Google, and what is not. Like you have to check with your own, administrator to get specifics, but generally speaking, if your organization has a contract with Google, it needs to be covered under all of the education requirements.
Well, I mean that goes. If you're a ChatGPT user, do not export data from your school account and put it in ChatGPT to make assignments and things like that. That's totally that's out of bounds behavior. And I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. You do if you are a Google school and have access to Google Gemini, you don't need ChatGPT, at least for your schoolwork stuff. Google Gemini will take care of everything that you need inside of your school situation. Are there things that ChatGPT does better than Gemini? 100%. That is absolutely true. Will you get in trouble if you pull some stuff from your school situation and someone finds out that you're feeding it into ChatGPT? 100% you're going to get in trouble. So avoid it. Keep it inside your instance, just like Webb says. It'll make everything move a little bit quickly, or move a little bit more effortlessly and easier for you. And the last folder is communication. One of the things that I was notoriously not bad at, I needed to improve in, was communication between, like, just making sure that I kept tabs of communication between me and parents, administration and myself, and the outside entities. So if you're looking for people to sponsor a club or to, you know, help you finance a field trip or whatever, like, where does that all that information go? And beyond that, like, where are potential places you might want to take field trips? Where are potential people you might want to converse about doing a Zoom into your classroom to talk about why the Artemis mission, those people trained in Nevada, all that kind of stuff. Keeping that all in one place, you can find those things very quickly, is important. And we have kind of a concept: do the human work, then do the analog technology, then do the digital technology type situation. Really have a situation, have a philosophy in which you're sitting now and doing the blue collar work of finding all these materials before you start rushing to your Google Classroom. Anything to add there, Webbs?
Just that I think that process also models what you should be doing with your students. Have them do the human work first, then have them go analog, then have them go digital. So they have to show their thinking before they ever touch the digital tool.
Let's actually dip our toe into Google Classroom, just because there might be some folks who are totally like, I've never used this tool in my life.
Google Classroom is definitely a product designed by developers for educators and not an educator designed product.
It is another reason why we're taking the don't jump into Google Classroom approach, is they have filled this with so many shiny things to distract your attention inside here that, and we'll kind of go over these things and kind of, again, reinforce our position that you shouldn't go in here first. You should be doing the work outside. But there are a lot of shiny buttons inside here. We're going to show you the shiny buttons. I'm going to show you how to avoid touching the shiny buttons totally. But I think as a veteran teacher who reads a lot about this stuff, but also has, you know, a Webbs in his life that really understands the technology stuff in here, one of the things you start to notice as you go through and start to realize is the Wizard of Oz effect, right? All these things, these shiny buttons, are there to distract you from the fact that at the core, this is just a container. It's nothing special about it. It's just a box. And if I prepare myself with the idea that this is just a container, I am going to have a lot smoother ride than, you know what, it's 5 minutes before class and I don't have an activity. Let me use the Google Gym inside of Google Classroom to make up some stuff. Probably not the right move, but that's the move that Google wants you to make, and we'll show you that right now.
You're gonna have a bad time.
So if I hit that create class button, if this is going to be connected, I am assuming, and I'm making a large assumption with our local school district, that the SIS system is going to be connected to the situation now that there is a endorsement of utilizing the tool. So I don't have any things in there. I'm going to say Hoodlums University is the name of the class. Yours would all, in theory, be filled out. You won't have to worry about this particular thing. I don't need any of that other stuff. I don't care about it. All right, cool. Create it. Now, let's kind of go through a super quick, oh my goodness, they're trying to catch you type situation. So if you look at this deal here, you got your class code, which don't really care about. So I'm going to turn the class code off. Yes, don't care about that at all. Google Meet, you're not going to use generally unless you're at, you know, a virtual school or something like that. You're probably not going to use Google Meet during a in-person deal. Perhaps you will. Quick links you can add. Upcoming work. This is another reason why you want to be prepared with a calendar or schedule of some kind before you come into Google Classroom, so that you have the peace of mind to be able to schedule things 5, 10, 15 days out rather than trying to do stuff on a daily basis, because that is the worst, especially when you forget or something happened to you. You get caught up in the coffee, like in the teacher's lounge, talking to Bob, who had money on the Timberwolves game, and now you had this situation where you knew you had 3 minutes to get that assignment in there, and the 3 minutes are gone, and now you're stressing because you got to pick your kids up from from music class, and Susie, the kid that's the overachiever, is like, "Hey, Mr. Lang, you didn't put that assignment in there like you told me to," and now you under pressure, bro. You don't want to be under pressure. You don't want to be under pressure. So this is your stream page here. You have a page for classwork. All the kids in your class would be here. All your grades would be there. You've got learning goals now, which is kind of sketchy to me, but do what you do. And the analytics...
It literally just came out like maybe a month ago.
Yeah, it's
the learning goals and standards haven't been out for very long.
So analytics are there where you can kind of go to deep dive on the kids. All right, great. Now, Webbs, what was your experience with Google Classroom as a person who utilized it in school and stuff?
So let me caveat this with it's been about a decade since I've used Google Classroom. I really liked Google Classroom for the access that it gave when students weren't in the classroom. It covered my butt more than once because I had kids that were like, "Oh, I turn that in," and I could just bring up the page and be like, "Not submitted." Like, it's not here. So there were a lot of kids that would try to lie about it. I don't know if that happens anymore. And I could just like bring up the receipts and be like, you didn't submit it. I really like that you don't have the dog ate my homework, I spilled coffee on it type thing. I could grade things from my phone. I really liked that about it. But it always felt lacking because one, it didn't have nearly what's here now. Like I don't, grading was a thing. You could grade stuff, but like there was no connection to the SIS. But it still made my life easier because I didn't have to carry home a stack of papers every night.
Very cool. This is the bait and switch with.
I want to caveat that though, because I don't know that this would necessarily hold up today, because there have been so many advances in what's offered in this area.
Okay. The bait and switch is especially for younger teachers or teachers who are not used to learning management systems. This, remember, is a container. This is not a teaching tool in terms of Google Classroom will teach your students. That is not the case. If you do not have the pedagogy set up, if you're not prepared coming to the tool, you're going to dump a bunch of crap inside this thing, and then it's wonderful that, oh yeah, the kid didn't do an assignment. The assignment that you assigned was crappy. It was a bunch of bull crap. And the kid didn't do it for, it could be for various reasons. But is what you're designing actually worth the time of the young person that you're asking them to dedicate? Google Classroom, again, is a container. And let's go ahead and let's actually pull that and do that a little. Let's just actually demonstrate that. Hit that create button. There's all this stuff that's inside here, right? There are options. There's an assignment, which is going to be your basic, the smallest piece of information that you can go and give to a young person. Great. Quiz assignment, a question you can ask your class. There's materials of things that a kid might use in order to do an activity or a product, build a product. I can reuse a post from previously in order to send it back to kids and bring it back up to their knowledge. I can build things in Notebook LM. I can build a custom gym inside here, and I can also build topics. We're going to get to the bottom half or the last situation there in the top situation on Thursday, because people are going to want to go directly to those places. But if you're not prepared to go to those places, you're going to build a bunch of stuff that's not going to be high quality. And when we talk about Google,
I think assignment was the only thing I had back in 10 years ago. All you could create was an assignment.
Well, the top 5 are the things that were, when I retired in 21, those were all things that were still there. Now the things, this is not something I was going to go over this evening, but I'm going to click one of these. I'm going to click assignment. The options that you had, Those are new. You have add-ons built inside here. You can add the learning goals inside here as well. You have all this stuff here. Now, if you look here, and just to kind of reinforce my original thesis, if you look at that instructions box, what is next to the word instructions, Webb?
Optional.
What is a teacher that's rushing going to do, Webbs?
Skip it.
Ain't gonna be no instructions, fam. It's gonna be a title. Do this thing. Optional. Don't have time. I got 45 seconds till they show back up. That's a problem. We're not gonna do that. I don't have any of these things. I'm just gonna upload something from my Google Drive that's like a worksheet or something. Hey, do the worksheet that you have assigned, or find a YouTube video that I know. Like, here's, you know, the count counts. Great, let's throw it on there. You're gonna count the count thing. This is setting you up to create activities that aren't memorable. And as teachers, the thing that I would hope that most teachers that I've interacted with are professionals. They want the best. They want kids to like marvel at their skill and have, you know, hey, Miss Weber was just amazing. I love Miss. If I see Miss Weber in the street, I'm gonna give her a big hug and say you're the greatest teacher of all. That's how every teacher wants to be remembered, right? So you gotta kind of do work to do that, man. It's not a situation where you just come to the tool, push a button, and suddenly, hey, things are great, right?
Making the magic requires some work.
Absolutely. And it's important that we understand that. I'm gonna slide this over just a little bit. I'm gonna move you over to the side here. Now, you've got, this is kind of cool. This is assigning up to you know, certain students, right? I can pick a student to assign things to, put a due date on there. The topic thing we're really going to revisit at the end of the week. The grading category and stuff like that kind of gets disgusting because like then it becomes weird with stuff. You got your rubrics. Also assumes that you were prepared. You did this work before you came here. So building a rubric, you shouldn't just rubric, create new, and magically let me throw some crap in these categories like that. That is probably not the way we're going to be successful with this thing. All right. So that gives you a peek into, if you come to the tool, this storage container, without a plan, without the resources you need, without the curriculum and stuff, and start, hey, I got 5 minutes and I just need to make something happen, there are going to be some very disastrous consequences, and you're going to be frustrated, and your kids are going to be frustrated too, because they're going to go home and Lord knows, like, hey, Mom, look at this assignment Miss So-and-so gave me. But you're in 5th grade. Yeah, it's a 2nd grade assignment because that's the only thing she had in her Google Drive, right? So this is one of the things that if you're not prepared, thinking about these things going to the container is not going to solve your problems. It's going to exacerbate those problems because now you've got 75 assignments in there that all could be of varying degrees of rigor that you're now trying to navigate. And that's going to be the problem with the fact that this is connected to your SIS as well, right? So go ahead, Webbs.
I would actually argue that tools like Google Classroom are trying to get you to understand you should build your stuff someplace else. Because the thing that they primarily focus on is the assessment, right? What's the grade? Is there a rubric? The things that an administrator cares about, the things that the people writing the checks to buy Google care about, right? Grades, test scores, things like that. It is like with the UI, with the user interface, with what you see on the page, they're directing you to say, we are not meaning for this to be the place where you create. You can pull this from other places, but this is exactly that. It is a container, and it is a gradable container.
Well, I mean, but I think you would have to be wise enough and reflective enough to understand that's their hustle, right?
Oh, 1,000%. I think a lot of the reason why that occurs to me is I have created digital products. Like, I have been a product owner. I've been a product manager. So I understand the intent being communicated. I don't think that's something the average teacher would understand. I think that's because I've spent time in the product space. I would imagine you could see something similar because I know you spend a lot of time with product and design books influencing the way that you design your classroom.
And with that being the case, this is where, and this last 10 minutes is going to be this is the money 10 minutes here. All right, let's put the money where our mouths were. Here's my scheduler. Here's my Classroom OS. All right. Again, I've not put anything in Google Classroom at all, but I could be successful in Google Classroom tomorrow if I needed to, because all my things are organized, especially one particular piece. So that source code is there, which is awesome. And if I go here, if you do not master any product, if you're in a Google Classroom district, if you want to do one, it is Notebook LM. This is the one product that beyond Google Drive where you're organizing things, Notebook LM is the tool. Why is it the tool? I've got my entire Classroom OS, my whole hustle built into this Notebook LM. Great. I can have conversations. I can do deep dives inside here. And I can add up to, I believe on the teacher's account is 50 different, sources. Watch what we are going to pull off if you do the blue collar work. Now, there's a source code. So we have a document that's a source code document. If you show up and hang with us on next week, we give this entire situation to teachers. Your source code, the architecture, whatever, we will probably give
walk you through all of it.
We'll walk you through the whole situation. Now, Webbs mentioned agents. I think of agents like fingers, right? They're fingers that all have a particular, like if you're a pianist, those fingers can all move individually. They can move together. They all, when they're working in sync, there's this sonata that plays, right? That's what our goal is. But I don't want to have to always tell the fingers which notes to play, which songs we're playing. And that's where Notebook LM comes in a far better way than Google Classroom could. We're going to show you later on this week how if you build the Notebook LM before, you can just bring that bad boy right into Google Classroom and your work is pretty much done there, fam. But let's just deal with me as a teacher. If I decide I'm going to go and talk about, what's a question you would have about pedagogy, Webbs?
A question about pedagogy?
Yep, and teaching something in this school year.
What do I have to teach about number sense?
Okay, so let's given my style and pedagogical leanings, where does number sense fit in my instructional, what do we call that, instructional philosophy? That's a very poorly written sentence. We'll see what happens. So it's going to search what is there. Now, the cool thing about Notebook LM is it's not searching the internet. It is going to default to the things that I have fed it. That this is the truth. These are the things I want you to think about. Not go all over the internet and find me number sense that's connected to a random teacher. My Classroom OS is going to be different from Webbs's. Ours will be totally different experiences. We have cool. Now, if I would have just thrown this into a random Gemini search or random Google search, Lord knows what kind of weirdness I would pop off with. But this, because I've seeded it with all the things that are important to me, how my classroom works, all that kind of stuff like that, gives me very specific feedback. So the quality analyst and the cartographer roles. In my classroom, the kids have roles in their group. They keep those roles until we switch products or projects. Great. The quality analyst, this role is responsible for reviewing work for accuracy and integrity. Would that be number sense? I could say that's looking at data and saying making sense of data. Number sense is the analytical lens through which this student ensures that the data or logic within a product, like a web design or project map, is sound and accurate. Would that be number sense? I think that equates to number sense there. The cartographer.
I actually like this the sentence at the top. It says, number sense is not a siloed mathematical skill, but a critical tool for navigating the unknown and validating creative products.
And it took that sentence and then looked through the information that I given it to go and find where that particular definition would be applicable. Yes? Bada bing. Now, if you do the work of seeding your sources in Google, in the Notebook LM, you seed the sources, you build things out. The other benefit is over here on the side, you can build artifacts for your young people that can be added to Google Classroom anytime you need them. So if I wanted a podcast on a particular unit that I'm building, I build the unit not in Google Classroom, I build the unit in Notebook LM first, get all the information that's there, all the things from your curriculum, the YouTube videos you want to use, whatever, all that lives in Notebook LM, and then I can build my podcast. I can throw the short video overviews just showed up like last couple of days. Short video overviews of the unit. I can build all those things out because I've done the work before. Then when I go to Google Classroom, I'm simply using the container as the container. Everything's built out. For Monday, we're going to do this. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I can put the whole week inside of Google Classroom because I've already prepared for the container. But if you're doing and Lord knows, there are days that as a teacher, you're going to be rushed. The baby was up all last night, or I was watching the game and I fell asleep and I didn't get to Are those days going to happen? Absolutely, positively. But if you get your Notebook LM set up for all your units now, you're going to be prepared for those particular situations in ways that you're not going to be able to if you were someone who's going to be doing the day-to-day planning in Google Classroom. Questions, comments, concerns, Webbs?
I think too, if you've ever done the exercise where you ask, vanilla Gemini, hey, build me a lesson plan for this topic, or hey, create something for me to address this type of lesson, you end up with something that pulls toward the middle. And that's exactly how these types of agents are designed to work. Their whole idea is that they're basically a prediction machine. Like, what's the most likely next thing that someone will say? So it tends to gravitate toward the middle and what's most common. That's why you get this sort of vanilla, uninspiring, very bland output, but one that generally fits most cases. Because all it's doing, I like to call it 3 autocorrects in a trench coat, or 3 autocompletes in a trench coat. It's just trying to predict what's the next most plausible word or sentence. And so you end up with, if 10 people ask it the same thing, you're likely to get very subtle variations on the same thing. Whereas when you give it all the context of what you're working with, what your grade level is, who you are as a teacher, then you start to pull it in a direction that's more authentic to you and your classroom context. You got to do the vanilla one first.
Oh, just because we only have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw the kind of sexy prompt in here first with the Notebook LM. Actually, we'll go over time because this is recorded anyway. So, given my Dolphins, this should be suitable for Google Classroom. All right, cool. So this is just it. No context. You see how quickly this works. All right, cool. This is the thing that, because of the fact that you're using all the tools and not Google Classroom to plan, this is the benefit. And this is something we're going to do tomorrow, but hey, we got a freebie beforehand. You see, it's asking me to be able to give it access to Google Classroom. This is Gemini. If I build my things in Notebook LM and then plan with Gemini, I can just send the stuff to Google Classroom. I'm going to say, let's continue. Yeah, allow that. Great. Cool. Now, considering course fit, there's no course. Other than there's nothing inside this course. Great. Here's my proposal. Class study, dolphin population dynamics, conservation, da 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 da. That sounds exciting. But it's like...
I feel like you're being sarcastic.
It sounds like wonderful. It's like a great time here, buddy. That sounds like a great time, Webbs.
I'd also say like research, analyze, propose. Like the directions are pretty short. I'm curious if you get something more rich when you add your notebook LM.
So that's there. And this will be our last trip.
Copy your prompt.
Yeah, I do want to do that. Oops. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Great. But I'm going to give it some context. Great. Fine. Dandy. Everyone agree that's the same prompt? Same prompt.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, it went very quickly to start to think on that dolphin thing with the propose, analyze, or whatever. It is actually having to go and burn tokens now. Burning tokens. It's looking through that entire notebook. If I had the unit for this particular activity connected, it would go through the unit in the notebook. Now we got the little dolphin thing that's there, assignment title, high concept introduction. Own it. What they're going to do in the first 15 minutes. Then they're going to learn it in 20 minutes. Then we got a shared situation at the very end. There's some Google Docs that it's referencing. It's telling me, oh, those roles that I have built into my source code, is breaking those things down into those roles. There's a checklist. There's an exit ticket question. Oh my God. Is that demonstrably more robust than the vanilla one?
Absolutely.
And if I wanted to, I just copy and paste it directly inside of Google, the Google Classroom situation, or I could copy and paste different aspects of this. It gets me going in the right direction, given that it has the context to actually think from, rather than I'm just going to pull a bunch of middle milquetoast crap from the internet and rock and roll.
It also has your voice. If it can't survive a Tuesday, it's not a strategy. Teams, you're dropping into a critical ecological problem. You have carte blanche to strategize, design, and deliver a data-driven solution. Read the blueprint below, huddle with your crew, and establish your roles.
I mean, yeah. And so, if you do the blue-collar work, you get caviar at the end. If you don't do the blue-collar work, you're going to get the 5-minute, oh my goodness, why do they even present that to young people? They're going to think that I'm whatever. I'm not the best teacher in the world, or whatever it is. So
if you've ever been disappointed by the outcome you've gotten when you ask Gemini for things, we can give you that solution.
Absolutely. So we'll be at Von Tobel Middle School. If you go to the Intelligent Hoodlums website, which I'm going to throw right on the screen really quickly, and I'm going to walk you through, like, hey, you just arrived. It's a very cool place designed by our very own Webbs here. So this is the hustle here. You're going to notice up at the top it says upcoming, and that's where we're going to go. Upcoming. We go to upcoming events. Oh, the stream should be streaming. That's disappointing, but that stream is not there. Oh, see, it's there.
There it goes.
Here we go.
It's meta.
Indeed. So our Google Classroom Won't Save You is there, but that Classroom Bootcamp Volume 2, if you click there, you'll have to register for all 5 days to get credit. If you're a local teacher, you get CUs for attending this thing. But we're going to walk you through how to build that source code, what your architecture in your classroom looks like, where you can pull out information for your scheduler, and then how do you create those activities that are going to be germane to your particular learning environment, not a place that's in this make-believe world of vanilla-ness and milquetoastum that happens to be on the internet given these tools. All right, so you'll pick your days and everything. You'll get your beautiful, wonderful certificate that verifies that you stayed and you did what you needed to do. And we'll have a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with the very first people that did that. Did this. It was super cool. So if you need CUs as well, we don't care if you come just for the CUs. Come. Like, you're going to learn something even on accident. So it'll be fun. We'll hang out for a little while. Bring your caffeinated beverage if you're so inclined. If you're not so inclined, then it is what it is. Webbs, any other good things for the people?
We will also be here the other 4 days of this week. So if you want to keep going with us and learn more about Google Classroom and how we do the magic we just did, please come back tomorrow or watch it on the recording.
So what we learn tomorrow is we're going to learn how to start playing with the agents and what that looks like to set those things up. Given that we looked at Notebook LM just a little bit this evening, all of your units should have Notebook LMs, and we'll look at that and then how those Notebook LMs can lead to deeper and richer conversations with Google Gemini and deeper and richer conversations with Google Gems as well. So for the Intelligent Hoodlums tonight, thank you for watching Google Classroom Can't Save You. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific. Or, that'd be 3 o'clock Eastern.
No, it'd be 9 o'clock Eastern.
9 o'clock Eastern. My bad. Forgot you guys are ahead of us. You're time travelers.
Like, why is my mom watching? She needs to be in bed.
That's how much her dedication, how deep her dedication is. Indeed.